Interesting article here, courtesy of the BBC. Google employee made redundant after reporting a manager who showed nude of wife caught his. Fucking insane, by the way. I didn't know this happened still. I just assumed because we're living in this quote unquote woke era, because we're living in this quote unquote progressive era, that if a woman did ever complain about such a weird instance, right, where a colleague shows a nude picture of their wife to you, right, which is a form of harassment, it's a form of, like, I don't know, revenge porn, it's weird, right? I just assumed that automatically in these cases the woman's side will be taken. I never could picture or envision that we live in a society where if a woman complained about being sexually harassed, that she would get fired. You know, that sounds like something that would happen in like the Mad Men era, you know, not nowadays. Pretty wild. Let's read the article. Curse the BBC. A senior Google employee has claimed that she was made redundant after reporting a manager who told clients stories about his swinger lifestyle and showed a nude of his wife. Victoria Woodhull. Oh, interesting. Hold on. Look at that specification. He told clients. So he didn't only tell her. Maybe that's a loophole. Maybe the loophole they're trying to say is that was his kink. That was one of his hobbies that he was into. Swinging and being polyamorous. So the fact that the woman would try to complain about it to HR was paramount to her abusing or disrespecting him or something. I don't know. Let's read the article. Maybe that's a loophole they found. Victoria Woodhull told the employment tribunal that she was subjected to a campaign of retaliation by the company after whistleblowing on a man who was later sacked. So the guy was sacked, she was sacked. What the fuck? Google's UK internal investigation found that the manager had touched two female colleagues without their consent. His behavior amounted to sexual harassment, documents seen by the BBC. By the way, it's fair to assume, right, if there's a man at work sharing unsolicited pictures of his wife nude to his colleagues, it's very likely that person's also going to be a toucher. It's also going to be handsy. It's also going to be a bit of a rapist, right? Let's just say that, right? It's going to be very unlikely there's a guy out there just happening to show, you know, being very proud of his attractive wife and showing pictures of her nude to his colleagues, who doesn't also do some untoward thing to his colleagues at work who happen to be female, you know? So I'm not surprised that he did that. The tech giant denies retaliating against Woodhull and argues that she became paranoid after whistleblowing and began to view normal business activities as sinister. Yeah, see? That's what I think happened. I knew there was a loophole. I knew that was what would be the loophole that they said. In a claim, Woodhull claims that her boss subjected her to a relentless campaign of retaliation after her complaint also implicated his close friends, who later disciplined for witnessing the manager's behavior and failed to challenge it. The claim also included Woodhull's allegation of a boys' club culture, including that up until December 2022, Google had been funding a men's-only chairman lunch. Fucking hell. Google has said the internal investigation found no such culture and the event was ended as it was no longer in line with policies. A judgment for the London Central Employment Tribunal is expected to come in weeks. Is a men's only dinner I don't think that's a bad thing, because I've been in workplaces where they have like women's only things. It doesn't look the greatest, but I've been in workplaces where they have like women's only things, like, you know. I don't think they push it as like women's only, but it's heavily implied that it's only for the ladies. So if they can have women only brunches and powwows and networking events, then why can't you have a men's only lunch? It's very toxic, I'm not gonna lie, for Google, right? They're being a startup, kind of, you know, being on the woke side, being on the progressive side to do it. You're surprising. It's something that you might expect to see at GB News or on Fox or something, right? Or at the fucking, I don't know, the Daily Mail or some shit. But you wouldn't expect to see this at fucking Google. You know, it's a bit odd this to see at Google. It's a bit fucking bizarre to see this at fucking Google. And then to continue, she says, Woodhull worked as a senior industry head at Google's UK sales and his agency team. In August 2022, according to her claim, she was contacted by a female client who said that during a business lunch, a manager in the team had boasted about the number of black women he had sex with. Jesus Christ. There's no peace, innit? Women have no peace in this world, innit? Let's be fair, women have no peace, man. You go to work, you're clocking in, clocking out, you got your little 9 to 5, and here you have managers in the fucking boardroom meetings talking about their sexual escapades, like your managers, people in power, right? God damn, they have no peace, man. He said he and his wife were swingers, and also described how they sexed with two women they met on the beach on holiday, according to a summary of notes Google's investigators submitted to court. You know what's interesting? I have a feeling like if this happened a couple of years ago and it's only being judged now, it's interesting how quickly sexual behaviors or tolerances have changed. There was a period in time where like everyone that you knew was in some sort of open polyamorous relationship, right? Everyone that you knew. Now that's kind of changed. I'll play quick later, but now there's been a rising number of young people, especially Gen Z kids, who are becoming religious, who are deciding to not be in long-term relationships and kind of really taking their time about who they choose to part. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of natural reaction. So I wonder if this would have, you know, at the time, this was probably a thing that a lot of people spoke about at workplace. It sounds odd, but I reckon there was probably a time where a lot of people spoke about, you know, open relationships and exploring different things sexually with their husbands or girlfriends or partners and shit. But very quickly, those things have changed. Nowadays, you do it and people are looking at you like a weirdo. So it's interesting how quickly things change. The client said the conversation was unprompted and happened in front of the line manager, who did nothing to stop him, describing their behavior as disgusting in court documents. Woodhull reported the client's concerns to her boss, Matt Bush, then managing director of the agency team, and Google opened an internal investigation into the manager's conduct. While the investigation was underway, Woodhull raised a second complaint from another female client who alleged the same manager had shown her a picture of his wife's vagina while scrolling through pictures of his phone, according to her claim. Yo, that's insane. Number one, I think it's kind of wild. I know it sounds insane to say. Maybe it's my Christian prudence coming in here. Isn't it kind of insane to have pictures of your wife's vagina on your phone anyway? Isn't it a little bit weird to have pictures of your wife's vagina on your phone? First off, that's the kind of thing you usually reserve for like the whores, right? The fatties. But I don't like. When would you ever take that picture? When would that picture ever be sent to you? It seems a bit odd. Unless maybe you're in a low-type relationship and you're like sexting or something. But it does seem odd to even have a picture of your wife's vag on your phone to then show it to other people. Like, I think, weirdly enough, I don't know why this is the case. For some reason, dick pics and vagina pics don't seem to do what they do for women to men, or for men to women. For instance, a man probably could get quite turned on by seeing a picture of some boobs on his phone, a picture of a vagine on his phone, a picture of an ass on his phone, a picture of an asshole on his phone. But I don't think a woman would ever get turned on or tantalized by just seeing a random picture of a random woman's vagine. I think it'll do absolutely nothing for them. Weirdly enough, you know, it's interesting thing that men do. Like, he probably did that thinking, yeah, this is gonna get her activated. She's gonna be all over me now. You know, she's gonna not be able to keep her hands off me. You know what I mean? Like when you scrolled by your phone pictures and hovered across a picture of your wife, like, why would that turn her on? You know, it's not her. You know, she wouldn't do that to you. It's just a weird thing that men do. I don't know why we have that in our head. You know, or even with dick pics as well. It's like, why would a woman, unless you'll be turned on? I mean, it's not. Maybe the idea of it in our head seems hotter than what it actually is in reality. In reality, it's just another guy sending you a fucking dick pic, which is a bit odd, you know. But hey, what do I know? The report: Google interviewed 12 people as part of the investigation and uncovered further instances it found amounted to sexual harassment in breach of the company's policies, according to the emails, notes, and copy submitted to the tribunal. So if they found 12 people. If they found other instances, right, from 12 other people, why did they say that she was being paranoid? Google, at least. That just shows that they may be hiding a just widespread company-wide kind of, you know, thing of like abuse and shit. They're trying to hide it. Because why would you call someone paranoid if there's a bunch of other people that can corroborate their story or their claim? The manager was found on the balance of probabilities to have sexually harassed two female employees. Yo, just the term sexual harassment is just horrible, isn't it? On the guy's jacket. Even more so at work. Being accused of sexual harassment at work is like, oof. And being fired off on that basis and having it on your record. That is brutal, bro. That is brutal. You're a real piece of shit. where he allegedly touched one colleague on the leg during a conversation and rubbed another colleague on the back, shoulders, and both without their consent. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just naive and ignorant about it. So I didn't know this is still a thing. This sounds like a Mad Men episode, man. I didn't know this was still a thing in like 2000s plus and onwards. I thought this was long gone. Mostly not because of men's good behavior, but mostly because of the consequences, right? Because if somebody reports you something, like it could not only cost you your job, it could cost you your life. You know. Your relationship, your marriage, your kids, it could be very costly nowadays. So I just assume because of the quote unquote cancel culture that looms over everyone's head, that men would behave out of fear that they get cancelled. But I guess that's not the case. There's some guys out there that don't mind just like rolling the dice and going crazy. Google also found he had allegedly made inappropriate comments to staff, including telling a female colleague that he had met for the first time that he was in an open marriage and that if she had sex with him in the bathroom, his wife would enjoy hearing. Oh my God. His wife would enjoy hearing about it. Yo, this guy has to be white, innit? This guy has to be white. This guy has to be white. Only a white guy could have this type of courage. Only a white person could have this type of confidence and courage to just say to something like this to somebody for the first time you met them in a work environment. Like, we should just fuck in the bathroom right now. I'll tell my wife and she'll get to. It's like, what? And also, what type of Riz? This is like opposite of Riz. What type of negative minus Riz is this? Like, the manager denied the allegation during the Google's investigation and said he did not think he had shared with the workmate that has an open relationship with his wife, according to the report. He was sacked for gross misconduct. Court documents show while his line manager and another senior manager were recommended for documented coaching for their failure to intervene. They were both later made redundant. Okay, cool. That's good. I like that, by the way. Senior colleagues also get reprimanded because they didn't report it. I like that. Accountability. Woodhull claims that shortly after reporting the sexual harassment in 2022, her boss, Matt Bush, gave her a little choice but to swap her successful client account with a failing one, which up until that point had belonged to one of the two colleagues who later received disciplinary action following her whistleblowing. So she was purposely given a shitty accounts to force her out because the KPIs wouldn't be hitting. She described the move as a poison chalice that left her vulnerable to redundancy, the court heard. She says that she has been demoted to a subordinate role on a big internal project supporting the other senior managers her report had implicated. Her boss later tried to downgrade her performance among other retaliatory actions, according to her claim. In her witness statement, Bush says he was always supported Woodhull's career and taking further inclusivity and gender equality in hiring pipelines promotions very seriously, adding that if he would start in practice to regularly move her accounts between the team. It's clear that they did it on purpose to obviously undermine her and get her to quit out of maybe how hard it was or because of KPI she would probably get fired. But you also have to question somebody that stays at a workplace. I know jobs are kind of hard to come by, but I don't know, as a woman, would you have felt comfortable continuing to work somewhere like this, where there was a culture of people turning a blind eye to or empowering or encouraging this type of degenerate behavior, you know, that you were kind of subjected to? Would you be comfortable staying there? I don't know. I probably wouldn't. So maybe she should have seen, you know, the tea leaves and ducked before they said to her to duck. But to be fair to her also, you know, it's a job, innit? You know what I mean? Why should you leave a job that you did nothing wrong? You know? You did nothing wrong. Why should you have to leave? So maybe that's the whole point of it. In 2023, Google started a redundancy process that resulted in the departures of her boss and one of the senior managers who failed to report the sexual harassment. In May that year, Woodhull took her concerns about boys club culture and the retaliation she was facing to the top organizations. In her witness statement, she says that she met Harvey Weinstein, then vice president of Google UK in Ireland, after hearing from a HR colleague that she was concerned about the team and experience of women. Following her discussion, Weinstein, now president of Europe, Middle East and Africa, appeared to be shocked by Woodhull's claims. Court documents show she messaged a member of HR, "Just met Vicky, holy moly, want to get you for 10 minutes today." Then in November 2023, Google were prepared for the broader reorganization and redundancy process. Woodhull claims that her final push to remove her from the agency. That month, Weinstein messaged Diana Nagy, Google's managing director of UK and Ireland, saying to her, keep pushing for solution on how you can run a process, including agencies. Gotta use this as an absence to exit people, according to a message from their conversation submitted in the court. Again, my quote, the biggest enemy of women isn't men, it's other women, is true. There were women, heads in authority positions who were conspiring to get this woman fired, mate. Women in charge, leaders in charge, managers in charge were actually the ones behind the scenes conspiring to get this Woodhall lady sacked, even though she had suffered sexual abuse, harassment at the workplace from people. Crazy, innit? In March 2024, Woodhall was made redundant alongside second senior manager involved in the misconduct investigation. However, she remains employed by the company, receiving a long-term payments for several work-related stress, according to her claim. So that again shows that they're culpable. So they didn't really fire her. They basically said, don't come to work, but we're going to keep paying your salary. Interesting that. Can you even do that? Interesting, isn't it? Don't come in. Because I guess that they think she's a distraction, they think she's toxic, they think she's paranoid. Don't come in here, but we're also not going to fire you, because if we fire you, it'll look bad on the optics. But she's technically fired. Google denies Woodhall was made redundant for whistleblowing, adding that her role was one of 26 across the company or across the team and why the department closed, according to her defense. Yeah, sure. It disputes that Weinstein attempted to make Woodhall redundant, saying she was very supportive towards her and instigated the investigation to the culture. The company accepts that Woodhall's report on the manager accused of misconduct was an act of whistleblowing, but denies any retaliation against her, saying that the subsequent events were perfectly normal business decisions. I don't know, man. I don't know. You can see it both ways. She could look a little bit crazy on one way, but I think overall there's too much smoke. You know, there's too much smoke, too much evidence here to make it seem as if she's just making it all up in her head. I feel like what happened. I feel like in most companies, if there's people in a position of power who are abusing people, it's very unlikely that there are not going to be other people who are also in positions of power who are kind of enabling it, turning a blind eye. You know, it's unlikely. It's unlikely that you're just in a position of power running roughshod on everybody and no one knows. You know, it's everyone probably knows, but they're willing to turn a blind eye to it because, you know, they don't want to get involved. They want to keep their job. They whatever. Maybe they encouraged it. Maybe they want to take part in it. I don't know, but it's very highly unlikely that what happened without the managers or people in big positions not knowing Wagwan, which is really unfair, really awful, because I don't know, you wouldn't think. I think, wasn't Google one of those companies or startups that had the mantra, don't be evil? You know, one of those things when they first got founded. I think, you know, they popularized one of those terms, don't be a dickhead, in terms of hiring. They're very progressive. You know, they have bean bags and fucking table tennis in the offices and shit, free lunches, fruit, all this malarkey. Probably a lot of like women-led focus groups and whatever, encouragement things and all that shit. But then when it comes down to it, in the end, they just operate and act like any other corporation out there. They just act and operate like any other corporation out there. Any other corporation out there. I guess it is what a blood clot is.